I'm really excited this morning to introduce Deepak. Become very close friend of mine in the last year and a half or so. Deepak, or Ben, as he's sometimes known, was born and brought up in Delhi, India, and he sat on an airplane for the first time at age 23. He has international experience after that first airplane ride, working on 4 continents, including India, in Europe, in Latin America, and in the US, in the fields of strategy, finance, technology, and business information. So lots of experience and experience with the universe also. He's on his 3rd master's, the first in engineering and the second is an MBA. And he is currently peeling off the industrial layers to see the universe through new eyes. And the title of his talk is Posthumanism, Technological versus Subjective Perspective.
Thank you very much, Laura. So I'll start with Shanta's comment. Shanta, we are not going down, we are just moving even bigger in the post-humanism concept is what is to be human. So the title of my presentation today is Post-Humanism, is what's after human. And I don't think we can ever find an answer to that, but the intent of this presentation is to look at different perspectives and find our own viewpoint on that. So when I was making this presentation, I was just thinking on some title picture, and then this picture came to my mind, and then somebody said, how does it link to post-humanism? So one thing is, at that time, couplet from Kabir, a 15th century Indian mystic poet, was in my head. I'll first say it in Hindi and then I'll explain it in English. It is, Mati kahe kumhar se, tu kya ronde moe, ik din aisa aayega, main ron dungi toy. And it means is, the earth says to the potter, today you are squeezing me, a day will come when I will squeeze you. And this fear of death and that search for immortality is what leading human to search for post-humanism, what's next on it. And this search for mortality is not new. In fact, the oldest surviving epic poem, Gilgamesh, where Gilgamesh went into the depths of underground in his quest to search for immortality. And many centuries later, the things are still the same, which is leading to the Google finding Calico Life Sciences as a concept for tackling aging. The quest for post-humanism is not only linked to immortality, it's also trying to gain superpowers, something like the divine incarnations on earth have, like Krishna, Buddha, Jesus. But the perspective to get to that divine power is very different. So let's start with the technological perspective of Ray Kurzweil. I don't know how many of you know him. Few. So Ray Kurzweil was born in 1948, and he's a New Yorker. He is a director of Google Engineering currently. He's a co-founder of Singularity University, and he's a world-renowned futurist. He did his studies in 1970s from MIT in computer science and literature, and he was involved in the field of technology from its very inception. So for him, technology is, he leveraged the Greek technology like techne, the art of crafting, but he called it more like, it means shaping of resources for practical usage. For evolution for him, so for him the evolution is a process of increasing order which might or might not lead to increase in complexity. He believes in an open system which draws on the chaos of the larger system and it sustains on a positive feedback mechanism. So how does the stages of evolution look for him? So for him, the first epoch was of physics and chemistry, where information was stored in atomic structures. And after that, we moved to the epoch of biology, where the complex aggregation of molecules happens in self-organization mechanism and the life originated. The information was then stored in DNAs. From there, we move to the epoch of brains and evolution of humankind, and the information start getting stored in neural patterns. We are currently living in epoch 4 of technology. So what is this epoch 4 of technology? Is the humans have created technology, and technology with its power of storing, sensing, evaluating different powers is creating the experience of humans. And that's where the start of exponential growth in evolution starts. According to him, we will be entering in few decades, not centuries, into the era of, in epoch 5, where the merger of technology and human intelligence will happen. The vast knowledge of human brain will get integrated by the extreme capacities of sensing, storing, and evaluating of data patterns by technology. And that would be the start of singularity. Singularity for him is when the exponential growth becomes so high that it almost becomes a vertical, exponential growth just becomes a vertical line. And he believes that this exponential growth will be led by three fields, which is genetics, robotics, and nanotechnology. So genetics will help in elimination of diseases. Robotics will help in creation of new computers or robots, which are better than computers, or robots, which is better than computer. And nanotechnology will help in creating a small, replicating the small molecules, which can help in creation of nanobots. From there, he predicts we will move to epoch 6, where the universe will finally wake up in the aftermath of singularity. The human civilization would be able to infuse its creativity and intelligence into the rest of the universe, and the dumb matter will be converted in executive sublime form of intelligence. In this epoch, the humans will be having nanobots all inside their bodies, which will help them in correcting their DNAs and creating an experience of virtual reality. And the speed of light would be circumvented, and according to him, that is a destination, the ultimate destiny of singularity and human evolution. So from this perspective of an American futurist, I would like to take you to a completely different perspective of an Indian mystic, Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo was born in 1872 in Kolkata, India. He had a classical British education in London and Cambridge, and after that he returned to India and participated in the Indian national movement against British Empire. And as a part of that struggle, he also went to jail. It's called Alipur jail, where he meditated on Gita. He felt the presence of Krishna and received the inspiration of Swami Vivekananda. And after that, he decided to contribute and dedicate his life to re-spiritualization of Indian culture. Slowly after that jail experience, he moved to Pondicherry, which was not ruled by British Empire at that point. And he wrote his philosophy on yoga. They are based on Indian spiritualism and Western intellectualism. For Sri Aurobindo, something has to be involved in the universe for it to be evolved out of it. And for him, the humankind is a process of movement of physical and spiritual growth. And physical growth in the terms of complex and subtle structures for support of spiritual growth, and spiritual growth is coming of the or where the implicitization or the being come out in its own form there. And the highest source of unity lies in upper realm, which is the basis of all truth. And he called it, based on Indian Vedic philosophy, as Satchit Ananda. So, Satchit Ananda, Sach is existent, Chit is consciousness force, and Ananda is bliss. This higher unity involved or involuted itself in the universe, and in the lower realms, such got manifested as matter, existence, matter. Chit got manifested as life, consciousness, force, and Ananda, bliss, got manifested as psyche. At the knot of these two realms, upper realm and the lower realm, mind meets supermind. For Sri Aurobindo, he make a distinction between psyche and mind, but he never clarified it very well, and he used these terms, sometimes one or other in that way. And for mind and supermind, so supermind, it's very difficult to describe it in terms of language, but for him, it's almost Platonic truth or real idea, which is a part of entire cosmos and existence. From mind to supermind is a process of opening up of an individual, and which he calls as triple transformation, which an individual can do. And this triple transformation is psychic, spiritual, and supramental. In the psychic transformation, an individual can take control of his or her own nature and open himself or herself for consciousness. In the spiritual transformation, the person surrenders oneself into the whole being of light and truth. And in supramental transformation, a new being is created based on the whole being. In those stages, from mind to supermind, there are stages which a person attains as higher mind, element mind, intuition, and overmind. There. Now, this is in complete contrast to Ray Kurzweil's theory of evolution. So let's see what's the difference between them. So, Mahadevta, this is something like the human desire to go towards a divine aspiration of incarnation, divine incarnation on earth, and we could just call it Mahadevta. So while Sri Aurobindo looks for the why of existence, Ray Kurzweil focused on what of the existence. For Sri Aurobindo, the process of post-humanism is subjective individual praxis of opening oneself to receive the descent of the divine on earth. It happens through being aware of the consciousness, surrendering, and creation of the new being. Sri Aurobindo's process is still based on the personal development of an individual, which will lead to the collective movement. And his spiritual partner, Mother, is claimed to enable the descent of supermind in her body in 1956, which will lead to the collective transformation of the universe. He has written some of the social and communal texts, but his focus is still very, very personal and psychological. On the other hand, Ray Kurzweil's focus of technology is very communal. For him, it's an integrated growth based on objective technology between human and machine, where we will move towards post-humanism. So Sri Aurobindo focused on he focused going beyond the mental faculties and developing oneself to receive the divine, whereas Ray Kurzweil focused of augmenting the mental faculties to create the post-human. For Sri Aurobindo's philosophy is based on spirituality, and for Ray Kurzweil, like Laplace, there's no need for such hypothesis. And when Indians and Americans debate, the only person who come to rescue are French. So we we go to have a different perspective where it's more psychosocial perspective of Teilhard de Chardin and transaction perspective of Simondon. So let's start with Teilhard de Chardin. Teilhard de Chardin was born in 1918, and he was a French Jesuit and a philosopher. For Teilhard de Chardin, humankind is an imperfect step of the process of evolution. And he believed in the term of cosmogenesis rather than cosmology. So cosmogenesis is a process where we are becoming, our consciousness and the awareness is increasing there, and we are moving towards complexity, self-organization, and self-awareness of the cosmos. He brought the term noosphere, which is a layer above the biosphere, in which was created based on complexities and the consciousness of the human evolution, and the human activities are stored there. And for him, the next evolution would be more as he call it, psychosocial development of humankind, where we grow together with the noosphere, and noosphere will have impact on our own development. Some people say the noosphere at that time was the precursor for the World Wide Web, which we are having right now. And according to Teilhard de Chardin, the universe has a purpose, and we'll be moving towards something called omega point, where the veils will go down and we will be the merging with the unity. And some people also say that's the starting point of Ray Kurzweil's singularity. So there are papers by some people on that. So he was very enthusiastic, or he was, I don't know very, but he was enthusiastic about technology at that point, on which I think Thomas Berry also criticized him. Simondon, I'll say very quickly on that, he was born in 1972, and 1924, sorry, 1924, and he's also a French philosopher. And his theory of evolution was based on, he has a concept called transduction, which is, in a very layman, we can just call it like a collective individualism. For him, theory of evolution is the humankind evolves based on interior and exchange between interior and exterior, and that's the transduction of exchange. And he was optimistic about technology. In his book on the modes of existence of technical objects, as a supplementary to his thesis, he mentioned that there are 3 stages of growth in technical objects. We started with the pre-modern agrarian times, where we have when we have the artisanal manual tools, for him, which brings the harmony between the human and the nature. In the modern era, we've moved towards industrialization, which includes like thermodynamic engines, and for him that led to the alienation of humankind. And he described that in 1960s. So the current phase is a phase of information processing, and he's optimistic that the phase of information processing will enable the exchange or creative exchange between human and nature, interior and exterior, in a more creative way through technology. Now, looking at the time also, so there are a lot of ways we can say evolution, and we have one is a pure technological viewpoint of evolution, one is pure personal subjective viewpoint on evolution, and then we have in between various other thoughts where how and where the technology would be helping or not in our evolution. I think from the very essence of the topic, we will never know the answer. The animals doesn't not, at least now, animals doesn't know what the human consciousness is. The only thing is we can have our own subjective opinions about this topic. And I'm as divided, and I keep on shifting there. But I just leave at the end with a quote of Nietzsche, is Übermensch, which is an idealistic type of a higher kind of human, which is half saint and half genius. And what is saint, what is genius, and what is integration is for us to find out. Questions? One or two questions? Or? Yeah.
Thank you, Deepak. Thinking in particular about Kurzweil, but also for Aurobindo and the rest of the other thinkers you were talking about. In your understanding, what role does death play in their understanding of evolution? Maybe Kurzweil in particular. I mean, he's trying to transcend death, but when I look at even when the universe was at the level of just atoms coalescing into stars, stars go supernova and give birth to heavier elements, so that the death of a star is an important stage in the evolution of matter. And then in the biological realm, obviously death is crucial for evolution. But Kurzweil seems to want to eliminate it. So do you see death as a creative force that is core to the evolutionary process, or should it be eliminated?
So just two parts in what do I think and what does Ray Kurzweil think. So let's start with Ray Kurzweil. As I understand, he has changed his understanding in his books, which was coming between 2000 and 2015. So for him, earlier he was more open to death than even now. So at that point, his books were more about we'll die, but we could upload our consciousness into the universe, and and he was coming through that perspective. But now he's talking about immortality of the human, then we just go with the nanobots in us, and which will correct the DNA errors, and we as a body will also become much more over longer lasting, so that's where he is. And how does he feel on that as it's difficult to say. So he has done his studies in computer science and literature. So if you read his books, all his books and the chapters start with a romantic philosophy, and which just draws you that he thinks that way. And I think he would, in that case, go for like death as something romantic. However, how he use it, there's a complete disconnect. He used even the romantic philosophy in a more mechanistic sense and create that picture out of it. And that's where computer science and literature part of his comes out. And what do I think? I think that death is the most, it's a based on Indian philosophy, we do have a god of destruction, and that destruction is as important part as creation. And we just need to move on. Otherwise, if the earlier destruction would not have happened, then we would not be here. And so I think it's very integral part of human being, and being human, of being alive. Okay, thank you.